Good morning. Thank you for joining Coffee and Convo Live with R.E. and Chosen. Today's topic will be part 3 of Relationship Goals the Right Way. And we have special guests with us, Frederick D. Sparkman and Nahchon Guyton. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
We are good.
Awesome.
All right. So in the last 2 episodes, we focused on friendship and relationships done the right way. Chosen, can you give us a recap?
So we were, as she said, we were into relationships done the right way. Part of the recap was how we used to always battle going into that friend box and had to reverse to let you guys, to tell people, hey man, we've been kind of doing this wrong. And really the friend crate is what I like to call it. The friend crate is actually where you need to be at in order to have a functioning, or to at least try to have a functioning relationship on a romantic level. That was like one of the main points that we touched on as far as the recap. Going forward, what did you have for the next part?
Okay. And Frederick told us last week on how to be a good friend, how to spot a good friend. And the main thing that most of us took away from that is you have to go to war in order to be a friend. You got to go to war to get peace.
That's
Okay.
Right.
So today we're going to have Nahchon and this word, what is it again? Expound.
That's correct.
All right. On the various relationships we'll have through our journey of life. Nahchon is the author of One Journey, 7 Ships. And these 7 ships are broken down as friendship, fellowship, relationship, discipleship, stewardship, partnership, and leadership. Nahchon, as I said, we spoke on friendship and relationships. Can you give us clarity as in what your book says about friendship and relationship?
Oh yeah, sure. When you talk about friendship, we're talking about going past that friendly acquaintance that we have. Like, I may be at work with you and we hang out at lunch and we may talk about what happened on the game, things like that. That's not technically a friendship. That is an associate. We may be a work associate. Friendship takes place when we get outside of the workplace. We get outside of a particular set arena. We begin to speak into each other's lives. We begin to kind of see what I call the stuff that's in the closet. That's that stuff that we hide from the public. And then we'll let that other person begin to say, hey, I see this little area in your life where we might need to kind of shore that up a little bit. They're starting to speak life into you. And when you're starting to speak life into them, friendship is an exchange. If you're not being able to exchange what I call your dirty laundry with somebody on a level of trust, and you don't start off right away with that. Now that takes time. We're talking, anywhere from 50 to 85 hours of spending time with this individual before you can develop a what I call a base level friendship. By the time you get to 200 hours with that person of actually having real conversations, I'm talking about those conversations that make you like, dang man, you come at me like this, wasn't expecting that. That is how you develop a friendship, because it requires that there's something deeper in the relationship taking place. Once you get into a friendship, you have to step into the next phase, which is called fellowship. That's when we begin to do some small pieces of life together. You break bread. You start to communicate about things that are outside of what I call the general conversations, sports, politics, religion, things like that. You start to get into what life goals, visions, purpose. How can I help you become the better person that you need to be? How can you assist me in becoming the better person that I need to be? Not looking for any gain. That's basically what friendship is. And then you move into that fellowship piece, which is where you begin to fellowship with like-minded individuals. And if you're in the process of fellowship with like-minded individuals, your friendship will actually become deeper and your relationships become stronger. If you have questions, I can go from there, but that's kind of a quick explanation of it.
I think I accelerated all of that when you and I met. I just skipped all of that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to jump some ships, skip some ships. I straight when we met, I went straight into friendship.
Yes.
Now you're doing this journey. When you say you go into the fellowship, and I lost my train of thought. Discipleship. That is also part of the fellowship, correct?
Yeah, discipleship is because of fellowship, and that's when I said that speaking into each other's lives and started talking about how we can improve the process for one another. How can I make you better? How can you make me better? Because we all have blind spots. We all have areas that we are not. We just can't see our backs, and you need a person, that friendship that creates that relationship that with that fellowship that they can disciple you in a particular area. For example, you may be musically inclined, and I may be talented in music, but you may be a master of music. And so our friendship, I would expect you with the mastery to say, you know what, let me help you develop your musical skill set. And that's a discipleship process. Another word to be used could be mentorship, because discipleship and mentorship are very similar, but they're slightly different. Discipleship is more like, you know what, I'm going to take your ideas as a master of music and I'm going to begin to emulate them in my process. Mentorship is where we're kind of like, you kind of give me a little task here and I do it and I follow it, and you outside of it. You're not 100% engaged in my overall success. But with discipleship, you are 100% engaged in my overall success. That's the difference.
How is that different from stewardship?
Well, because stewardship is about actually management of a process of a relationship or friendship, finances, resources. So when you steward something, you're managing that, and you're not managing it from a perspective of, I want to control it. You're managing it from the perspective of, how can I make this grow? How can I make this more productive? How can I make this become abundant? It's more, think about stewardship as a form of cultivation. Like if you're in a garden, if you're cultivating flowers, you want them to grow. Sometimes you got to cut certain things off, and sometimes you cut off certain people, because they're not helping the relationship grow.
Awesome.
I would call it cutting slings.
You would call it what, Frederick?
Cutting slings.
Cutting slings, yes. That's what he uses in his book, the Friendship Manual, cut slings. Okay. Now, so let's start this way. When we first meet a person, like I said, for you and I just cut through all the bull and went straight for what I want, what I wanted. When you meet someone, how are we to determine which role we're about to play in their life, or should play in their life?
Well, what you do is you always, from my perspective, always going with, how can I improve the situation? How can I make this individual, this relationship, this situation better than I find it? So if I meet a person and say we're in a workplace and they're struggling with some work activity, I may go in with the understanding of, like, you know what, I'm just going to help them become better with their job is. That way they have some security and some financial gains, that they can be stable. Now, we started to meet outside of the workplace and we start to develop a friendship. And then I start to see what other areas in their lives that I can show up that they don't see. And I may bring it to their attention like this. Like, I noticed that, you kind of struggle here financially. I mean, have you ever considered, going through some financial literacy, to different things that help them, because it's not a competition in life. Life is a team sport. We got to play this together to make sure that we win. A lot of people go into life with their relationships in competition. And when you do that, you begin to alienate people. And alienation does not create a good relationship. What alienation does is, I'll be a frenemy to you. I'll be on a friendly terms with you, all the while I'm plotting to destroy you.
That sounds like my life story.
Right.
For a little background here, Nahchon and I met in the workplace, and when I would see him in the workplace, it was like this light around him, and I wanted a piece of it. And so I walked up to Nahchon and I said, "Hey, I want what you have. How do I get that? How do I get that?" And from there, we like I said, I jumped ships. I became friend immediately, because I was hungry for it. I was hungry for that piece. I was hungry for it. I wanted to know how he got it, and I wanted him to walk me step by step through it. We
jump straight into discipleship.
Yeah, we
Right
did.
away. You know, because at the beginning of all these relationships, we got to keep it 100 that you have to have a relationship with God the Father. And when you have that relationship with God the Father, he will begin to direct you in how to speak life into that other person that he brought into your life. And so when I met Reese, she came in like she said, like, boom, what's going on? I mean, I need this. I'm like, hold up, wait. Let's kind of arrange the conversation. What's happening with you? I was like, tell me something about yourself. I had to fast forward the process of getting that's 50 to 100 hours. I had to get that done in about 3 weeks and 40-hour, increments, trying to get this down so I could say, wait, I need to know some things. When I got that background. Okay, I said, okay, and I let the Holy Spirit direct me. It was able to tell me what I need to tell her to help her, and then to cultivate this relationship so it'll be sound and it'll be on the right terms. And that friendship.
It did me some justice. It did me some justice. He put me on the right path because when we met, I was ready to blow up some buildings.
Yes, she would be considered what the world says an angry black woman.
Or a bratty little sister.
Yeah, you know. That's it.
I was bratty with him. Katie Kaboom. I remember that. I was bratty with him because I wanted to know. Nation, I had questions for him every day I came in there.
I walk past, I get on my desk, and I got a note. I'm like, okay, I think it's work related. No, she got some other questions. I'm like, okay, cool. And so we worked it out, but yeah, it became very productive relationship.
Mm-hmm. He helped get me back on the right track. With what we're saying here, I would say you were more, you start after the discipleship, I would say you crossed over to leadership with me because you did guide me to where I needed to be. You asked me some of the toughest questions, and even to this day, I'm going to tell you some of those questions haunt me because I have to go back and be real with myself, look in the mirror and be real. Those questions still pop up. But also, even with that, because I value our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say in the short time, like you said, in 3 weeks, we had to go through a lot.
Yeah.
You became, how do you, I'm trying to get to partnership here, your definition of partnership, because you didn't only speak life into me, you also pushed me.
Mm-hmm.
You pushed me to look deeper into myself, especially with my writing.
Right. And then I made an investment with you on your writing to say, look, if I need to do something, at the time I had some shows that I was like, I can put you on to give you some space to begin to express that. And then to make sure that you were being authentic, because some of the stuff that you showed me originally, I'm like, that ain't you. I mean, I don't know you like that, but I know that's not you. So we need to make sure that we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper. And by doing that, I'm actually putting myself on what I say, you put yourself out for the benefit of somebody else to say, hey, let's make sure that you're doing your best. It's not about me at this point. It's about making sure I'm giving you what you need so that you can shine. And that's that partnership aspect of it, because we're looking for a common goal. And my common goal was, okay, she has a great talent. She has a great voice that she's basically put under a bushel and don't want nobody to know about. So what do I need to do to bring that light out? What do I need to do to put that bushel to the point where it's no longer an obstacle, but something that she can tell a story from so everyone can understand exactly what she's trying to say and not misunderstand her? Because she was really being misunderstood, and she's been misunderstood because she didn't want to be authentic. And that's another thing, guys. When you're not authentic, you will get misunderstood. You'll get mislabeled, you'll get mispositioned, and you'll get misappropriated for things that's like, wait, that's not who I am. Well, but that's the message that you're delivering. And
that would have been a real good key point for the last few segments that we had with that unintentional and intentional deception. That right there, what you just said was that was a real good keynote that could do that. Go ahead, Fred.
Well, he's also saying put your worst foot forward. Like I was saying, you have to be authentic.
And that's a trap that I've fallen into in life, and most others fall into. We're not being authentic because we are concerned about how we're received. We're concerned about what is it?
Negative. People. We learned it backwards. We learned it backwards. It was all about It was at first glance, it was all about trying to impress. It was like trying to be the prettiest peacock. You know what I'm saying? Which
Yes.
one had the prettiest feathers? And it
Yeah.
wasn't about how it wasn't a fight. It said, man, look, you already know I can't fly, but let me see if I can go ahead and throw these. Well, maybe you don't know I can't fly, but I tell you what, if I flash these feathers in your face, hopefully you'll forget about the fact that I can't fly. But then, you know, once you get into the point to where you know the person, look, this is really what it was. We learned it wrong. So by the time the person that you really were came out, the person that you presented to people was so good to them, and when you finally became the person that you are and showed them the person you are, it was like, hold on, where did this come from? They thinking that the person that you came at them with was the real you, but the real you was hidden under that what's the word I'm looking for? Under that fabrication. The real person was hidden up under the rubble. You did it backwards. You were supposed to show them the code to get to the diamond. You trying to be the diamond, and you well show them that's the code.
Yes.
I'm different with that because, like I said, I put my worst foot forward and my faults forward so that as you see them, you can identify with where I'm coming from, and then we can both work towards enhancing both of our traits or talents.
That's exactly what it's supposed to be. Yeah, that's it. Now you know me though, Fred. You know I take the long way around so you can eventually see it. I don't want to do the shortcut where you have the questions later. It's like, I want to be able to like, oh, now I get it. So yeah, that's definitely what it is. Definitely.
You know me, I'm one shot, one kill. So.
You know what I'm saying? Right.
And I'm using myself, which is something I'm been told not to do, but I'm using myself here as an example. I don't mind walking up to the butcher block. As Nation said, I came off, and well, I still come off as that angry Black woman, and that is a defense mechanism. It really is, because deep down inside, I'm like the sweetest. Well, y'all know I'm like the sweetest person you can meet, and I love speaking life into people. I love being there for people. This is one reason why I write, because I want to help people. It's not my fault they don't pick up the book, but I want to help people. But it's like I said, it's a defense mechanism, because as I stated earlier, my whole life story has been misjudged, mislabeled, misunderstood. For what is it I want to go? Let's go back to discipleship, because I would consider what I do as a means of discipleship. Okay. All right. So
on that note, though, let's talk about it like this, Ree. When you talk about those defense mechanisms being misrepresented, when you build walls, people will throw things at them.
Well,
test them
I don't have a catcher's mitt for nothing.
That's the way it works. When you begin to build walls, people will throw things at them because they're saying, okay, I see an opposition. So what you need to do, the mindset is I need to build bridges. That's commonality. So as long as I have a wall up to say, well, I'm not going to let you see my, like Chosen said, my coal. I'm just only going to show you the glimmers and bits of my diamond. When they begin to see the coal, now they feel like they've been betrayed. And when they feel like they've been betrayed, they're like, okay, I'm going to tear this individual down because this individual has proven to be unworthy and untrustworthy. I can't trust them, trustworthy. So you begin to put a flaw in the relationship, and you begin to put a tear in the friendship, because without trust, there is no friendship or relationship or discipleship. It all begins on trust. So if I can't trust you to be authentic, then I can't trust anything else you say. So if you're not to put yourself out there, you're going to get people attacking you and misrepresenting you and mislabeling you. But you don't put yourself out there blindly. It's a process. And what I do, this is how I do it. I give critical information that is undetrimental to me to see how that individual handles what I call my secret treasures. When I give them that information, if I hear about it from XYZ, someone else, then I recognize you're not trustworthy. So then I stop the investment at that point. I redirect, reposition, realign, refocus. Because if I continue down that road, I'm going to end up in what I call a toxic relationship, not beneficial for them or myself.
Well, I see you keeping our other panel nice and quiet. That means you're speaking truth.
I mean, that's exactly what he doing. I mean, and that, I mean that's huh.
I can't
I
argue with
couldn't
anything
I
because
can't
it's
argue with no, I mean I
I
don't I don't
told you.
argue in the first I don't argue in the first place,
I
but
call him
I
Yoda
see
for a
no
reason.
I see no I see no dings, dents, crevices, and cracks
I
in
call him
anything,
Yoda for a reason.
cause that's the truth, and that's how
exactly.
that's that's one way that's the way to,
Now, see,
like I said,
Nation
like I
tore
go back
down.
to okay, go ahead. What were you saying?
Nation tore down. Well, when I met him, I just started asking questions, but he tore down a lot of my defenses immediately. When he read my first book, he appreciated it, but like he said, he could tell that my voice was being stifled. Like I was deliberately stifling my voice. And when he read some of my poems in my second book, I remember one. It was "Lie to Me." When he read when he read that one, all I heard his response was, "Excuse me, but damn," because it's like for that one, I did let my voice come out in that one. I really did, and that is like one of the biggest things for me when we speak of being authentic. It's like for unfortunately it only comes out when I've been hurt or angry, and it'll only come out then, because for me at that point it's like I didn't lost my, not gonna say lost my mind, but I didn't lost all respect. I didn't I'm done trying to quote unquote play nice, and this is what it is.
It didn't go like that with us. What I did was I antagonized you to the point where you forgot to be fake and just spoke your mind.
Yeah, that forgot to be fake is what you call it.
So
I
basically,
was,
he was the sand to make you a pearl.
man, and from hello, it was like, and for you don't know, this is my cousin.
Hmm.
We were not raised together. Um, we actually just connected about what 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
About 4 or 5 years ago, and his approach with me was so raw that I was like, hold up, wait a minute, who do you think you are talking to me like this? You don't know me very well. And that's how it started. So
That's usually
every
how I
time,
start.
it didn't start that way with you and I chosen.
Nah,
Your video froze. It
uh,
there you go. It didn't
no,
start that way
it
with you
didn't
and I.
really. No, not really. It was more.
It I
No,
just stole your
that's not
fries. I
good.
was trying to agitate you and I could not agitate you.
Mm.
I was
See, that's the thing. And in the immortal words of a lot of people now in 2020, well, 2019 and 2020, you tried it.
I tried it.
You tried it. But
Mhm.
then you also got what, what I'm saying? You got what you didn't expect to get.
Uh,
And I still couldn't get you from stealing my fries.
to this day, I was still steal your fries.
And to this day, you still steal my fries. But yeah, but it's different. But but like I go back to like what Frederick would say. The thing that stands out to me when he talks about you gotta go to war to get the peace. There's always been some tearing down to build up, though. When we speak, you know what I'm saying? Like when you and I would have those conversations, and you'd be like, okay, I don't agree with that, but you gotta remember, and I'd be like, we have those where it's like
Mhm.
if I don't disagree, and then you rip. There's been times where we've had those conversations where you done rip me up, and I've been like, but at the end of the day, it's not like, man, I can't stand her ass. Like it's always been like, at the end of the day, it's been like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. So you have to have, so going into the friendship, so the friendship, which equals the relationship goals done the right way, you have to be in the position, you have to be around somebody that you don't mind them getting in your ass and you learning from it. You have to have that. Because if you sit up and you bullheaded and that person, if you go into a relationship where it's like you want to be there for a certain reason, but then when they come at you on some real stuff, and then it's like in a competition to where it's like you telling me all this, what, you better than me now?
Right.
You know, so you can't. So in some circumstances, you have it to where people are in a relationship for one aspect of your life. It's like they have one thing that they want, and they're cool with say, okay, I'll take this. Everything else that comes with it, it just comes with it. But what they don't understand is if you're in that relationship for survival means, it's not gonna click. So you have to have that kindred energy. It has to be on that level to where you take them for everything. They're not
So
finna just be nice to you. It's has
Right.
Well,
okay. I gotta learn. They're gonna teach. They're gonna teach. Oh, you're gonna. It's either I'm gonna learn, and it's both of them. I'm gonna learn. You're gonna teach. You're gonna teach. I'm gonna learn. It has to be that type of relationship. You have to have that type of relationship and dynamic.
so
Uh,
this goes back to what Nation you've told me before, um, where in different phases the student becomes the teacher and the teacher becomes the student.
right.
This is in a relationship where both parties are willing to um, help each other grow. Now, and when we say that this is about relationships done the right way, relationship goes the right way, we
Mhm.
are to enter any relationship in the mindset of how can I better this person?
Just
Exactly.
like he said. Yep. And
Because
then
you got to go ahead, Chosen.
yeah, and then like what Nation said earlier about that blind spot, that blind spot that you have to have that one person that can watch that, basically your back,
Yep.
to that you
Accountability, right?
trust, yeah,
Accountability.
to trust that person to watch your back because you can't do it all on your own. You know what I mean? And you have to be able to trust that person and know that they're not gonna lead you astray. And like also what Nation says, that takes time. It takes
Yep.
time to get there. You gotta have that. You first have to have that trust.
The
But another
one
thing,
thing,
though, on that note, though, Chosen, and what you're saying too, Reed, is that, like I told you before, I can't teach you anything. I can only provoke you to think. And that's what Chosen and Fred's talking about is that provocation comes through friction. If it's always smooth and we don't have no bumps, we're
Something
not really
wrong.
going anywhere as far as
Hmm.
getting
mm,
depth. All we're doing is playing a game. We're top level. We are associates that happen to be friendly. That don't make us friends.
well,
When we begin to provoke, and you say some things that's like Chosen said, I know she didn't just tell me that. Now it makes me think because I can't learn unless I'm provoked to think. And if I'm not thinking, I'm not going to learn because learning is a personal choice.
Hmm.
I have to be saying, you know what? There's something of value here. Let me dig it out. Let me uncover it. But that comes through provocation. Now, a lot of folks like to avoid conflict. Conflict is not a bad thing.
Still
Toxic
sharp as
conflict
steel,
is
man.
a bad thing. Toxic conflict is where it's beginning to drain you. When there's conflict, that means okay, like I said, Frederick was the sand to your pearl. It means he agitated you enough to bring out the best in you. That's good conflict. Okay. But when somebody agitates you to the point where you begin to dry up and you begin to become a shell of yourself, that's toxic conflict. And we have to
mm.
have discernment to know the difference. If we don't
well,
understand what that conflict is not bad, it's a good thing or a bad thing. It is an essential thing for growth.
I
And give
was
you a
just
prime
gonna say
example.
that.
If you take a seed and you just drop it in the ground, nothing happens until that seed begins to break down and die. Can it begin to produce a fruit of a tree or a bush or a rose or a flower? But as long as that seed is whole, no conflict, there's no growth. There's no
Hmm.
abundance. So there has to be a breakdown. No breakdown, no growth. So provoke each other to think. And that's how we develop friendships. That's how we develop a strong relationship through provocation. Provocation of saying basically this: I know you told me that you were this kind of person, but I'm not going to believe what you said. I'm going to believe what you showed. You
well,
showed me that you was this kind of person. So now which one? I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell me which one is the real you. And then we're
Mm.
going to go from there. Because most you got to think about communication. Only 30% of communication is verbal. The rest of it is non-verbal. So when you was walking around the office talking and the way you was handling yourself, I'm like, okay, there's more to this. So let me begin to ask very poignant questions that's going to basically make her say, I know he didn't ask me these questions, especially here. You don't know me like that. And that's one of the things she told me. You don't know me like that. I'm like, well, you came, so I got to give you what you was looking for, which is the truth.
Who?
Which made me start digging and things. Yes, yes.
But to me, that's like I think me and you had this discussion too. That's like one of the, you know, the most potent weapons that you can wield is the truth.
Yes.
And whenever you it's like it's the most reliable too. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you hit people with the truth, it forces them to either do one or two things. Either they're gonna hide from it, or they gonna be that person to this. Okay, you know what? Since you gonna hit me with the truth, I can do this.
Yep.
And that shows you, that's your indication right there of how you need to deal with those individuals. Because if you sit up there, I hit you with the truth, and then you come and you hide, it's like, okay, I ain't got to sit up and say, yo, I hate you. You going to run away from me.
Yeah.
Because every time you come to me with some stuff, I'm going to hit you with the truth. And one thing about the truth going to show you yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't like what you see, you're going to run from it.
Now,
that happened with Henry though. I mean, in the relationship, because she got to a point where like it was like 2 weeks, she wouldn't say nothing to me. She looked at me, just kind of rolled her eyes. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and what I told her was, when I walked past, I said, "So you're thinking, right? Get away from me, Nation." Okay. And that's what it was, because, like you said, Chosen, hitting them with the truth.
You hit them with that truth, man.
And she had to think about it. She had to process it.
Yep, like I said, I don't mind being on the butcher block today. Okay. But that actually goes into people being offended.
Yes.
That goes into people being offended. And I hate that statement, don't be offended. Well, how was I supposed to take it? That's ego. And you have to get to a point where it's always ego. You have to get to
No, not always, because an offended brother can be as unyielding as a fortified city. Sometimes you can offend somebody. It's like when I would first approach some people, and I'm known for speaking the truth, but when you speak to most black people and you hit them with the truth, the first thing they say is, you lying. So you can offend my sense of honor, and you can offend my integrity, because you are generally projecting the fact that you always lie unto me.
Yeah. You think about the word offense, though, the word offended is off-ended, meaning I'm off on something that how you ended something. You made a statement to me, so now I'm off. Like, wait a minute, this is not connecting to me. So that's why it's a personal thing. I'm like, wait, you said this, and I can't see that truth, so I'm off-ended. Hence the word offended. So when I begin I'm lost. I'm like, and then it is up to me to make that connection, and up to you to be willing to direct me back to the path. But what typically happens is when one person get offended, the other person get defensive, because they'll come at them a certain way and say, you know, well, you lying. Why you say X, Y, Z to me? And the other person's like, wait, man, don't be coming at me like this. I ain't got time for this. I'm gone. And they ghost them. That's not relationship. That's not relationship building. That's not friendship building. Friendship means I'm gonna get dirty with you. I'm gonna get in the trenches with you. I'm gonna say, listen, we're gonna go through this, and we're gonna get to the end of this stuff. But it's gonna require you to be willing to be truthful. It's gonna require me to be willing to do the heavy lifting when you can't. That's what friendship is about. And when offense comes in, what offense shows me, like I told Reed, I said, you're offended because you know that I'm hitting on something you try to hide. That's why people get offended. Not that they don't see it, they don't want to accept it yet, so they get off-ended. They want to change the direction of the conversation or the relationship, so they don't have to face that particular truth. That's how offense comes.
Yeah, so I'll say too, whenever you get it, if you understand the person that's for your well-being and for your highest good, they're gonna do that, and you're gonna know that they're not doing it just to break you down and leave you there. It's hey man, we're gonna figure this out together. I see that this is a problem and a hindrance on the person that on your greatness. Because as a friend, when you go when the relationship goal, the goal should always be for one another is to help you become the best version of yourself that you can be.
Exactly.
That is what it's supposed to be. And
and that's what he reminded me of, because I approached him. How do I get there? And I didn't
want to go there.
No, there were some things I did not want to share.
Like, you ain't really asked for that, but look at where you're at now.
Yeah.
Hmm. So that's and to me, like, so when we say done the right way, that's really supposed to be paramount. Is to we're building each other up. It's we can do all that fun stuff too, but how long is that really gonna last? What's really gonna last? Because after I'm gone, or let's just say after I'm not in your presence or whatever, what else did you have to say? Did you have were you able are you able to say I contributed to you being the best person that you could be, or or did I bring you down? And I'm not trying if I'm trying to be your friend, if I'm trying to be, we'll go to like what we were talking about too, where relationship goes, one of the biggest connections is man and woman, or your significant other. If I leave this world from whatever woman that I'm with or whatever is, I want her to be able to say that I grew and because of him. I learned this because of him, and vice versa. It's like we are better because we worked at what we had. It wasn't just what people see on the surface. And because a lot of that stuff that people see on the surface, man, that stuff right there fade away. It ain't always peaches and cream. It ain't always fun. And you don't really, your relationship just doesn't really benefit 100% from what we think is important, on the physical side and just the romantic side. That's what I want to kind of get at too.
And along that note, those chosen, when you say they say when absence makes the heart grow fonder, and
Hmm.
I kind of like to put it this way: when you think about a person, do you smile more than you frown? Do you cringe when you hear their name? That can
Mhm.
tell you where you are
Where
with
you
that
are.
person. With that person,
Hmm.
if you cringe when you hear their name, that means there's some unresolved issue that has to be broken out to, some toxicity that has to be uncovered. When you smile, that means they impacted you. And for me, it was always I want to make a difference, and to make a difference means I have to impact you. I don't have
Hmm.
to change you. I have to make an impact, meaning that I have to leave you with something that you can walk away from and build with. And if you can't build with the information that I provided you, I didn't make an impact. A real friendship, it says, the scriptures tells us, the Bible says really clear that a friend sticks closer than a brother. What that means is I'm gonna be there when your family may not be there.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have your back when everyone that you knew and grew up with have abandoned you. That's a friend.
Hmm.
Mhm.
We may not always agree. We may not always see eye to eye. But at the end of the day, I
At the
got
end
your
of the day.
blind spot covered. I got your back covered because I know I want what's best for you. That's making a building a relationship a right way. And that's from because see, you can't have a marriage relationship unless you have a friend relationship.
That's
You
Mhm.
right.
can't have an intimate relationship unless you have a friend relationship. But what
Mhm.
most people want to do is they want to hook up and then they want to discover
Mhm.
later who that person is.
Hmm.
Well, that's backwards
Which is
all day.
something
That's
we
backwards.
Oh, that's
practice.
what we always say. We learned it
You
backwards.
address
It
that.
was,
We learned it backwards.
yeah, we learned it backwards.
How do I get this person to be with me? How do I get they and not even be with me, because some of the goals are just either physical or material.
Hmm.
What can I get from this person? What can I get out of this person? Oh, I want to talk to him because you see that fly ride he got. Girl, do you see those shoes?
Them
Stuff.
ulterior motives,
The
beast.
material.
Them ulterior motives is something, and they lead to a lie. All this stuff goes back to this. The stuff that we would say. I mean, the series that we had prior to that. It goes back to
Unintentional
that
and
intentional and intentional deceptions. And you start, and that's what shrouds a lot of relationships is going into things the wrong way and not unlearning what you learn. We learned a lot of that stuff the wrong way, and I
mm-hmm.
keep going back to that because it's truth. You know what I mean? It's how much game can you kick? How
Mm-hmm.
much of a facade? How good does this Halloween costume look on you to keep it? But how long are you gonna be able to keep it up? You ain't gonna be able to keep it up forever. So you
Mm-hmm.
have all
But
these different hurt people. Go ahead.
though that's an identity crisis. You go around putting on costumes and false faces and things like that, and pretending because you really have not discovered and took the time to find out who you are.
That's
Because
it.
Know
Yep.
yourself.
until you know
That's
who
it.
you are, you cannot be authentic in no relationship.
Nope.
The first relationship you have to be authentic with outside of God
Yourself.
is
Is
yourself.
yourself.
If you can't tell yourself the truth, how can you tell me the truth? If you
Mm.
can't look in the mirror and say, you know what, you messed up here. You have to face this. You did this and you should have did that. Now, if you don't know, That's one thing. That's what friends are for, to point out, look, you know,
Point
let me
out.
show you up here. Let me show you up there. I'm not trying to bring you down, but I'm trying to build you up. But to build you up, I got to tear this part of you down.
Yeah.
I got to tear this down, because if I don't, you're going to be walking around basically ill formed. There's a malfunction in your system because you think that you're good here and you're really not. And I'm not your friend if I don't tell you where you're not good.
Exactly.
So I have to go through that process of saying, let me break down these aspects of it to help you become authentic with yourself. But again, I can't teach you anything. I can only provoke you to think. And if I don't provoke you to think about being authentic to you, nothing I tell you is going to have a lasting impact. Because what's going to happen is you're going to walk away and you're going to say, okay, he said to do this or she said to do that. I did that and I didn't get the results I wanted. Wait a minute.
Be sincere.
You got to be 100%. You got to be 100 with you. If you're not 100 with you, you can't be 100 with anybody. And that's what makes it these people walking around with these costumes and these faces on, because they don't want you to see, and they don't want to see who they truly are, because they don't value themselves.
Exactly.
When the question is asked,
go
ahead, Fred.
Well, I was going along the lines of what you were saying about knowing yourself. And there was this one thing that I used to always teach. I don't believe that any man can know himself, because the Bible plainly tells us that this is true. But I do believe that you can know who you are in God, as in that aspects of him that relates to other people around you. When you begin to produce what he put in you and it becomes visible to others, then that's who you really are. Before you do that, you're just a fake facade, a ripoff, a copy, but you're not the actual original.
Let me put it this way, to expand on that, to give a visual. You are an apple tree that grew up around oranges. Okay?
That's me.
Until you look at yourself, you don't recognize who you are, because you're always emulating the oranges that you see. Everybody around you is an orange. You're like, man, something's wrong with my color. They orange and I'm red, or I'm green. Something's not right. So you keep looking around until you look inward to see, wait a minute. Oh, I produce a different kind of fruit. I produce apples. So now I got to go find some apples so I can learn exactly what's all the attributes about this apple, because I've been in these orchards for so long that I've lost my identity. I don't know who I am, because I'm trying to be them. And they looking at me strange, and I'm trying to figure out, why don't I fit? Because you are an apple tree in the midst of an orange orchard. That's not your people. That's not your surrounding. When I mean your people, I'm talking about that like-minded folks who can help you become better. And if you don't understand that, you will continue to emulate, and that becomes that costume, that becomes that that mask that we up there, that facade we put out there, because we're trying to emulate them instead of saying, wait a minute, let me stop for a minute. Oh, I'm producing apples. Now, what can I do with these apples? Well, to understand what you can do with these apples, you got to get around people who think like apples. You can learn from the oranges, because they can teach you some things that you don't know. But for you to become truly 100% authentic and self-realized, self-actualized, you have to be around some folks who understand your attributes as an apple and what you contribute as an apple. And if you don't get in that environment, you will be living and walking dead. You have life, but you have no life.
Yep.
Now, I could go into that from the warrior's perspective. Now, the way I've always seen it, I've always been an apple in an orange orchard, and I've always made sure that all the oranges knew that I was an apple tree. I'm an apple tree. That's your problem. I'm standing right here, and I'm dropping apples. Now, Now, the best thing that you could possibly do later is come to me and say, well, what's it like to be an apple tree? Because I'm going to tell you, but you're not going to make me into an orange tree.
Oh, you can't even begin to you can't really even explain in depth what it's like to be something else. You will always be what it is that you were originated to be, what that your true form, your base form, your purpose.
Your purpose.
But I think too, a lot of times the thing with most people is they already write themselves off, don't like who they are before they even get to know who they are. So I just wanted to say that, not in contrast to what you said, Nation, but I just wanted to add to that. Like, some people, they I don't like what this is. I want it to be like this, but this is, but this is what I am. And instead of them getting into themselves and learning themselves, they hurry up and they just write themselves off, which leads again to that intentional, unintentional deception, because you showing other people something that you really aren't. Yeah, you might want to be that, but that's not exactly what you are, because you don't even know who you are.
And that goes to the point of like when me and Ree met, I told her, I said, I'm a treasure hunter. My goal is to dig out your gold and to sell it back to you so you can see the value in who you are. And it goes back into, like I wrote in my book, people don't care how much you know until they can
And know
feel
how much
and
you,
know how much you care. They have to feel it though. And so asking those questions, going through that process of beginning to unravel that deception that they have, and that, well, I'm not good at this. Well, wait a minute. I have to disagree. You are good at this. You may not be at where you want to be,
where you want
but
to
you're
be.
better than this. This is your vein. You are an apple. I'm sorry. I'm an orange. You're an apple. You are an apple, and you're a good apple. But you need to understand the value that you're bringing. And what
Hmm.
happens is, because we live in such a toxic, divisive world, that we're always contrasting ourselves against someone else and begin to compare ourselves to other people. Here's the thing. You are 100%. There's not another person on this planet that can do the things that you can do. You are
Boy.
100% authentic. You are priceless. And once you understand that you are priceless, I don't need to go in and look at something of another individual and try to compare value there, because I know that I'm priceless. There's no value that you can add to me far as my worth, my inherent worth. All you can do is help me become better who I am, and I can help you become better who you are. But when we begin
Hmm.
to compete, going head to head with each other, we begin to self-destruct. And we begin to self-destruct, the relationships fall apart. Relationships fall apart, communication breaks. Communication breaks, communities fall apart. Communities fall apart, families, it goes all the way down to the individual again. Now you're broken. So you are a broken person meeting another broken person, and y'all have nothing in common but jagged edges. So you're
Mm.
stabbing each other, trying to create a cohesion. And the only way you can create that cohesion is to get past the stabbing. But that means that you have to be a little bit more broken. So now we can find some softer edges that we can stick together to build each other back up. That's doing relationships in the right way. But that only happens when both parties are willing to say, you know what? I'm broken.
Mm.
I'm broken.
And once
And I've
again,
been through some things. I've been through some pain.
yep,
Help me.
once again, owning your truth and being
Mm-hmm.
able,
Knowing who
owning,
you are.
knowing who you, learning who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
and being able to accept the fact that this is who I am, this is where I start, and then you can go ahead and construct what it is that you know, the best version of yourself, what you want to add to, what you want to add to your character, what you want to like. I look at myself, I'm like, I've always been the type of person where I don't like people that talk fast. Cause I don't,
Hmm.
Hey.
I never, no, well, listen to what I'm saying. When I say I don't like people that talk fast, because one indication with people that talk fast is, okay, eventually you about to say something, or you're getting to where a point, you get to a point in your conversation where you trying to get over on me about something.
Mm.
And okay, hopefully I missed something in your speech or missed something in your words that'll get me hung up, and you know that, and then that's your time to strike. I don't like to deal with people that that try to get over on people. So I know that with me, I check myself to be like, okay, do I have any of that attribute in me? And if I do, let me check that. You know what I'm saying? Anything that I feel like is a blemish on my character and my integrity, I'm gonna look at that and be like, that's not who I'm trying to craft myself to be. I already see where I am at base form. Okay, what don't I like about this? What are some of these negatives? Let me go ahead and try to restructure that so that I can be this person that I want to show you. But you can't show yourself to anybody until you know who you are at base form. It ain't no way you can go Super Saiyan without hitting base form. You knew I
Yeah.
was finna go
No,
that
I knew
way.
you would.
Y'all knew I was
Oh yeah.
finna go there.
Yeah.
So you have to go through base form. You know what I'm saying? You gotta train in 100 times gravity. Because right now, at least, you're looking at yourself, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. So I'm gonna have to train in 100 times gravity. That gravity is that pressure to knock all that blackness off that diamond. That's cold. You got that diamond in the middle. You want to get there, you gotta go and train under gravity. You gotta get through them pains, and you gotta look at yourself. If you want to get stronger, you got to be able to say, hey, I'm weak. Right now, I'm weak,
Hmm.
and this is what I need.
Yep.
Our nature.
Self-reflection.
Yep.
Self-reflection.
Self-reflection. You have to have that.
I got a question for Nation.
Go ahead, Frederick.
Okay, so basically, our friendship manuals are a lot different. I'm just a little bit, I mean, they're basically the same, except for I'm a little bit more raw than you. So I want to know what your take is on celebrating the differences and agreeing to disagree.
Oh, that's what I call the value proposition. Here's what that means is I value you for who you are, and I propose a proposition that we may not see eye to eye, but let's agree that we can disagree peacefully, because I want to follow peace in everything that we do. So even though you may say, okay, well, I'm this type of person, so let's put it in sports terms. You know, well, I'm a Bulls fan. Well, no, I'm a Rockets fan. Okay, I got the best player on my team. Okay. And the reason I say okay is because that is who you, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. Let's agree. That's your opinion. That's how you see it. I have a different opinion. Let me have my different opinion. So we're going to complement, even though we don't see eye to eye on everything. That's a friendship. That's a friendship. We agreed that we disagree so that we can get to the bigger, what I call the bigger battles. The bigger battles are those where it's not about my opinion of these ideals of who's the best player on my team. The bigger battle is how can I impact your life so that when you have that next dark moment, you can think back on these conversations and say, you know what, now I can walk through it because I've been enlightened. And that's what a friend's supposed to do, bring light to you.
Steel
That's
sharp as steel.
Which goes back to yours, Frederick, where you say it really doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, that it doesn't matter. At the end of the day,
Really
you're friends at the end of the day.
Well, it should matter. But
It shouldn't matter.
It should matter.
Yeah.
For some people, it does matter. It does matter because here's the deal. When you think about it, it goes like this. You will export what you grow. If you're a negative, toxic individual, everywhere you go, you bring negativity and toxicity with you. And you begin to put that and begin to plant that around your environment. So if you begin to hold to these ideals that being negative and toxic is right, you will begin to personify negativity and toxicity, and you wear it like a badge of honor, when in actuality it's destroying you and those that surround you. So a real friend is going to say, you know what? You have more to give than this negativity and this toxicity. Let me be a friend to you and say, you know what? You need to stop this bad behavior. And it's not really bad or good behavior or bad behavior. Let me stop this behavior. Let's replace this behavior with something that's going to be more productive. You need to produce a product of life. If you're not producing life, you're death. When it comes down to life and death, if you're not given enlightenment, you're subtracting from somebody. You should either be multiplying them, or you should be adding to, at the minimum, adding to them. But you should never be subtracting or trying to divide them. You should always be trying to bring life to them.
That's absolution. No in between. You know, you should operate. You should learn to operate with no in betweens. It's either I'm gonna give, and if I'm not giving, then I have to look at it and say that I'm not that you're taking.
That I'm taking.
That's it. That's it. I mean, it don't get no plater than that.
But in life, though, there's a continuum of, it's based on choices. In my book, Choices Just Are. We want to subscribe, good or bad, to the ideas, people, and concepts. No, these are just ideals. When you take good and bad out of the equation, now you can see it for truly what it is. Is it going to benefit, or is it going to harm? And when you look at it, just okay, this is where I want to be, or this is not where I want to be. It makes it real simple. But when you say, well, that's a good choice, that's a bad choice, now you begin to create barriers and build walls to separate you from the truth. And we do that within our own personality. It was like, well, I'm a good person. We have people say, I'm a good person. Are you a good person? Or are you just a person who happens to do some good things?
Yep.
You have something to say, Frederick?
Oh, no, I was just talking, wrapped it up in what you were saying, because I was like, yeah, that's cool. But I still want you to hit on the part about celebrating the differences, how you approach it, because I like the difference in the way that we approach things.
I celebrate the difference by making that person that I'm speaking to. I use Reeve because she put herself on the chopping block. Let's use you.
Okay.
Well, me and her had a different approach when it came down to communicating, especially when people did something to piss us off. All right. Reeve wanted to go straight in. She just wanted to get to the straight. I want to go straight in. I said, wait a minute. If we go straight in, like you're trying to do, how is that going to benefit you in the end? What's the long-term ramifications of you going straight in? I'm a direct person. I shoot straight, and she knows I shoot straight. But in certain environments, in certain situations, we have to look at our different approach. Now, I said, Reed, being direct and going straight in works. That's how you operate. And I applaud that. But you cannot take a hammer to every tool, to every situation on job. You can't always be knocking people in their head with certain things. You have to understand how I'm going to get the best result. That's celebrating the difference in how we are different in our approaches, because there's a diplomacy that takes place. And then there is a brute force that takes place. When Ree got upset, she's like, you know what? I'm going brute. I just want to go straight to the gut. I want to cut you to the white meat. I'm like, wait, we can't do that. Not that I don't appreciate that you want to do that, because I agree with you that should be done. But to get to the end result that you desire, that's not going to get us there. So let's look at a different course. We got to re-navigate. Even though I agree that is how it should be done based on how you feeling and how you perceiving it. And that's the key word there. When we celebrate differences, if I can't understand your perspective, I can't appreciate your viewpoint. And I got to be able to understand your perspective so I can appreciate your viewpoint, and then I can understand how you value something. And when I can do that, now I can sit back and say, ooh, because when she first came with something, she's like, I'm like, and this is what I did. This is what I call dismissive, because I wasn't listening. I was like, that ain't no big deal, because I'm looking at it from my perspective. And so my perspective was, that's not a big deal. Why are you tripping on that? You should let that go. But when I heard it from her perspective, I was like, oh, I see why that's an issue. But it requires me to stop and to listen. And if I'm not listening to what's being said from the other person's perspective, I can't appreciate the difference and I can't celebrate it. So I have to be able to at least look from the direction that you're looking and have the same value understanding that you have. If I can't understand what you're saying, I can't stand under the information that you're giving me. So it's going to basically warp my perspective, and I'm going to end up in a situation where now I'm combating with you, trying to get you to see it my way. And that's when we break down and we never celebrate. To celebrate means I said, you know what, you're looking left 152 degrees at 0. I got you. I'm left 152 degrees at 0. Now give me what you see so I can appreciate your perspective. And once I do that, now I can celebrate that, even though I may not agree with that perspective, but I can at least celebrate and say, you know what, I can see how you see it that way. And that's how you move to that next phase.
Okay, since you said next phase, then let's go to the next phase.
Okay.
Now, the next phase of actually knowing how to communicate is to have the ability to be able to vent or be vented to.
That's right.
I'm leaving the chair to you.
Oh, so when you come down somebody, here's what you got to understand. When somebody comes to you and they vent in that next phase, okay, I can celebrate that we don't agree. Let's keep it 100. We're in a polarizing situation. The elections are coming up. We have Democrats, we have Republicans. All right. So you got a Republican friend, you got a Democrat friend, and you may be one or the other. You don't agree with how they view. You don't agree with their candidate, but you value them. So they come and vent to you about your candidate. Now, when you begin to take that candidate as a personal mantle, now you take those things that venting as personal, as hits on you. When you do that, you are in error, because what you did was you began to wear someone else's opinions and ideals instead of saying, you know what, I agree with how you see that. Now, when we begin that exchange, when it flips and I begin to vent to you to see if the relationship is strong and integrous, can you hear my vent about your candidate? Can you hear what I don't like about it and not take it personal? And we value and we begin to fortify the relationship, because we want to make sure at the end of the day, we walk away, we're still friends. Exactly. If I can't vent to you and you can't hear and you hear me, then that means we don't have a relationship that's truth. It's built on some sand. But go ahead.
This right here, I want to say to both my brothers, in a nutshell, to have like the right way to conduct your relationships, shouldn't you take, like when you say, yeah, I'll go with the Republican Democrat thing, when I'm talking to you about my candidate, you talking to me about your candidate, the mature thing would be to do is to see what points are congruent.
Exactly.
Take as much congruency from every discussion that we have to put it in that category of, hey, this is what we take from it, and find out the pros and cons to make sure that we have more cons than pros. You gotta have pros and cons, so you have to have balance. You know, I'm one that likes to seek balance. So the mature part of having a relationship and having arguments. So I guess y'all already
Yeah,
answered that,
yeah.
but
Oh,
to have to say, hey man, look, this is the common ground. That's
mm.
basically want to
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Well, everything's about common ground.
Or it
But what
should
I
be,
was
because
really
just like
what
we say, common sense ain't common.
no
And
no no.
then, so,
Common sense is a
because some
superpower.
people just like to argue for the sake of arguing, and I want to be right. You might be, okay, yeah, you picked all these, yeah, you came with all of these likenesses and stuff like that, but I didn't get what I wanted. I wanted to be the one with the medal at the end of the argument. To me, I think that's like, that whenever you're dealing with someone like that, they still have a lot to learn as far as maturity
Yeah, that's
in one's.
needed.
Yeah.
And I speak on maturity in the friendship manual.
Mm-hmm.
Maturity is when you have a greater sense of self to the point to where little things don't bother you. You can't celebrate the differences if you're focusing on every little different thing there is.
That's right.
That
That's what I
matter.
wanted to get at, yeah, because that's
Now,
really key.
the bigger the differences is as far as ideologies and things that we look at that we can't agree on, then we drop that, put that on the shelf, and we'll leave that alone until we're both mature enough to deal with it.
Most
If
people can't
we,
stand with being wrong.
But that goes to the 80-20, what I call the 80-20 continuum. It's like, okay, if I got 80% where I can agree with you on, I can lead at 20%, and we can work through that later. All right. So once I get past 50%, all right, or like you said, finding that commonality, I get past that 50%. Okay, well, we agree on 52% of these things. That other 48 that we don't agree on, we'll work them out when it's necessary. Let's move on this 52%. My whole goal is to move that 52% to 80, because I know at 80%, there's 20% of problems that may arise that I can mess with and deal with later. They're not essential
that
to
big.
us move.
Gotcha.
They're not that big. But if I focus on that 20%, I'm gonna leave 80% of things that we could have accomplished together undone.
Undone.
So I want to get past 50% to at least 52% of agreement. At 52% of agreement, I can move a mountain. And I'm pushing that 52% to 80. Once I get to 80, that other 20%, like, those become non-essentials to the goal at hand, which is to move this 80% of this problem. Here's the deal. Say we're going to move furniture in the house. We got a big dresser that we want to move. All right, I can lift up a little bit of it. Chosen can lift up a little bit of it. Frederick lift up the rest of it. But if Chosen says, you know what, if I'm not lifting anything, I'm gonna watch y'all do it. Here's what happens. That disagreement is gonna stop the progress of movement. So then Chosen says, I'm not doing anything. Fred says, you know what, if he ain't gonna do it, then I ain't gonna do it. So that leaves me with a little bit, that 20%.
We have a
I'm
quick
getting
question.
nothing. Go ahead.
Question is, so is it wrong to decide to stay silent when you are talking to someone and they appear to be dismissing everything you try to say?
no.
No, it's not wrong to stay silent. What it would be, though, is when the heat turns down and things cool off, then you bring that up to their attention and you say, you know what, in that conversation, there's no valuation here. Meaning you obviously don't value what I was saying. So therefore, I need to understand where we are. You need to be able to articulate and confront. If you can't articulate and confront a situation, you won't have a false relationship. So being silent indefinitely is not a good thing. But being silent at the point where they're just kind of dismissive, yeah, let them have their moment. Never leave a person embarrassed. You don't ever want to leave a person embarrassed. You want them to save face because you want to save the relationship.
All right, y'all. Okay, so we need to do a quick wrap up. This is Relationship Goes the Right Way. This whole series has been about how we've learned it backwards. We've learned to basically, like fishermen, catch your fish, grill your fish, eat your fish. We're not taught to be friends and the different relationships that we're going to cross in life. We're always taught, hey, go in and get yours. Get what you can. If it ends, it ends. This is what we said last episode. Some people are in your life for a season. Chosen, you know this better than I do.
Yeah, some people it's either a season or a lifetime, and some people come in to try to come. Some people want to see how much game they can kick and how off balance they can throw you, or some people come in and they thrive off survival. It's just survival for them, and then it goes back to intentional and
Intentional and
unintentional
unintentional
deception.
deception. So
And
if anything, if you take anything from this series, be your authentic self. Know who you are and breathe life into others. Okay. Does anyone have any last words they want to say?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, now when we were talking about the venting deal, now if you remember correctly, the first thing that I teach is that before you get into a venting deal, you have to both agree on the rules of venting. So you don't just arbitrarily start venting to people. You agree, or you let this person know, hey, I need to vent to you. Now, once you say that, now we're going to engage these rules that we came up with so that I can vent to
No
you. And then
hitting
when
below
it's
the
your
belt.
turn, go ahead.
No hitting below the belt.
Exactly. I mean, you have to show respect, but at the same time, I'm trying to get my emotions out, even though I may know that what I want to say is stupid or whatever, but I'm trying to get out my emotions. Now, once that's done, I can think cognitively and I can figure out other things on my own, but I just need to have this emotional release, and I need a friend to provide that vehicle.
Okay.
So I think on to just the kind of to tap on to what he's saying, rules of engagement. Like I told you when we met, I'm like, okay, if we're gonna deal and we're gonna go this route, what's my expectations. These are the rules of engagement. If we're gonna engage in a friendship, these are the rules, and those rules have to be agreed upon. And if we agree upon the rules of engagement, they have to also be upheld. And when you break the rules of engagement, the social contract of our friendship, I have to be able to tell you, you broke these rules. Now, by you breaking these rules, there is consequence for every rule that's broken. And that consequence may be we don't talk. That consequence it could be several different reasons, but if you don't set a standard, there will be a standard set for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the rules of
Mhm.
engagement will be set for you if you don't have your own rules of engagement. That goes back to your identity. You need to know who you are, and so you can set your rules of engagement and what you will accept and won't accept. So we talk of men and women relationships. For example, a lot of women take a lot of stuff off of these men because they don't have any identity of themselves and they don't have any rules set because they don't have any value. If you begin to understand and value yourself, you begin to set rules or what I call standards, not a goal. This is what I accept. This is what I'm going to accept. This is what I'm going to tolerate because I'm worth this. And the same
Mhm.
thing for guys. If you don't have a value proposition for who you are and a standard set, you will never be able to go in a relationship that's difficult and be successful because whenever that person says something that hurts you, you're going to hide and run because that's how we do, or you're going to fight and then you're going to break it down and you're going to continue to fight. So everything that you see will become a fight. And now you have conflict all around you. And this all goes back to the fact of you have not set a standard and you don't have rules for engagement.
Chosen. Anything to add?
I mean, he pretty much said it, but and to wrap it up, you know how I do, man. Just wrap it up. It's just like Frederick said, man. Put your worst foot forward when you dealing with people. Just come in your base form, But I always put it in the base form. Come in your base form and give people the chance to see. Just like, and I'm glad Nation said what he said because it was like, when he's like how he put it when y'all met, and he saw the areas where you needed to be built up at because you already came at him of what you wanted. You said, I want what you got. So he already knew to get into Mr. Miyagi form and be like, okay, this is what you. So he put you on some wax on, wax off type stuff, man, and you ain't like it until he showed you that it was really working. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and I mean, thank you for saying that, brother, because that also, that was something that I had already identified. I just didn't know how to put that in the context and the way it's like you just showed me something like, oh, like, dang, people like that exist. They do exist. It's just I do the same thing. I just didn't go at it at that, at the way he said it. But yeah, in order for us to have it as a society and as a people, really, in order for us to have that, man, you really should take. I would suggest that most people, if not all people, should really take that stance when they're dealing with people to say, hey, man, even to say, hey, I just want to help you be the best you that you can be, and you know, that's pretty much it. I was blown away by that take on it that he brought to the table, man. Thank you for that, bro. For real.
It's
All
a
right.
pleasure.
Relationship Goes the Right Way. Thank you for joining. Nahchon Guyton, author of One Journey, Seven Ships. Please pick it up. Please pick it up. He addresses friendship, fellowship, relationships, discipleship, stewardship, partnership, and leadership. All the different ships we'll have in our life. And F.D. Sparkman, author of the Friendship Manual. Until next time, have a blessed Sunday.
All right, y'all be
All right.
victorious, be balanced, be great.
Awesome.